Hey guys, Doug Walker here. Things are moving along pretty smoothly here at Channel Awesome. We're working to get these new shows going, all that good stuff. One of the things that a lot of people have been asking for a long time while we're doing this is what are my favorite Nostalgia Critic reviews? And oddly enough, they might not be the ones that you think they are. So today I'm going to do my top 11 favorite Nostalgia Critic reviews. But before that, I'm going to do the top 8 or 9 sort of honorable mentions, the ones that you would think would probably be on my favorites, but actually aren't, but I still think they're kind of good. So we'll just go through those real quick. Thomas the Tank Engine. Yes, it started the Sparkle, Sparkle, Sparkle meme that now I hear at every con. I thought it had some real good laughs. I thought it was such a strange movie and such a odd combination of elements and dramatic and comedy and adult and children. It was so strange. You're a Rotten Dirty Bastard, the Nostalgia Critic Christmas Special. I really like this one. This was back when I just wanted like no redeeming features for the Nostalgia Critic. I just loved it. It was the first time I used Orlando. I loved using all the people that were in it. Just loved this spin that, you know, It's a Wonderful Life where everybody actually would be better off without the character. Even the person trying to show him betrays him when he finds out how much better he'd be. The Grinch. It was the first review I ever did entirely in rhyme, and it actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, and a lot of people really liked it, and I loved imitating the original Grinch special, trying to get the angles and stuff like that, so that was great fun. This is the one that like a lot of people were half and half about at the time, and now like everybody loves it. It's like one of the definitive reviews that everyone really enjoys, and they love making fun of Tim Curry, they love making fun of all the sort of strange choices that are made in the story, and they love making fun of the Stephen King cliches and the Stephen King drinking game. Scooby-Doo, the final episode. I thought it went out really well. I thought it was a real good way to wrap things up. Just in terms of absolute favorites, I just think these others are a little better, but I really liked that review, and I think it was a real good way to send the Nostalgia Critic off. The Wizard, this is one where I was just topping myself with reviews at the time, like every review was just getting like better and better. I think this was sort of like at the time like the crowning achievement that everyone was just blown away by how funny it was. And I think people were just happy to see me tackle this movie because not a lot of people tackled the movie at that point, at least not from a review standpoint. And also just the Lucas jokes, how can you go wrong? California! Just a lot of memorable lines. The Room, believe it or not, this isn't one of my all-time favorite episodes. I think it's really good. I like how it turned out, and I love working around how I go back in time to make it nostalgic, or forward in time to make it nostalgic. Like I said, I just like these other ones better. And the final runner-up is Batman and Robin. Yes, this is actually not one of my favorites. I think it's actually kind of overrated, believe it or not. I mean, if you like it, great, you know, and there are some good jokes in it. I'm not saying it's at all bad. It's just funny how much, like, it really took off. Like, this is the one that people associate, like, the most with the Nostalgia Critic, you know, and of course the bad credit card that, you know, people still shout at me at cons, you know, it's just this. And it's a good review, I like it, I just don't think it's, like, my best, you know, or even necessarily, like, one of the top 11. At least not one of my favorites, so, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the actual top 11 of my favorite Nostalgia Critics. Number 11. Patch Adams. I just loved the idea of attacking a film that's supposedly based on a true story, even though it's like every manipulative little thing you can imagine is in this movie. And it's another one of those films where like a lot of people liked it. They liked it at the time, and for whatever reason they liked it years later. The critics certainly didn't like it. It got panned. Maybe that's why I didn't like it either. I'm just following the crowd. But what I really like about this review is not just the jokes and not just making fun of the Robin Williams formula, which I think that's the film where it's abused like the most. I mean, it is just the most painful to watch, and it's just made even more painful that it's supposedly based on a true story about a very fascinating guy. I mean, this guy, whether or not you agree with him or not, is very fascinating. It has some very fascinating ideas. And like a legit movie made about him, like one that's really sort of challenging and interesting, would be kind of cool, instead of this schmaltz. So, I mean, if you like it, if it inspired you, whatever, great. Just didn't do it for me. I thought changing the making up a character or whatever to kill off as opposed to actually, you know, acknowledging the real person who died in this, I mean, oh, that How can that not piss you off? That really pissed me off. That's a dead person for crying out loud. You're not even getting the gender right. But at the same time, it's actually brought both the review and I guess the movie, well, obviously the movie, has brought a lot of attention to the real guy. And the real guy, like I said, whether or not you agree with him, he deserves to be looked at. He deserves to be heard out. So, yeah, I really like this review. I loved tearing into it. And it was definitely a lot of fun. Number 10. The Animaniacs Tribute. This was just great because I got to talk to people that essentially were kind of my heroes growing up, and I didn't even really know they were my heroes. I didn't know these people. I didn't know what they did, but then when you see, you know, how much of an influence they did have on your sense of humor and how much work they did do and how much, just multiple things a lot of them did, it's really cool, and you get to talk to them, you know, just as everyday people, and yes, the questions you want to hear about it, and it looked like a lot of the audience are wanting to hear about too, and I got to improvise with them. I mean, how cool is that? You get to do a scene with Slappy Squirrel, or you get to do a scene with Mr. Director, and it was great fun to put together. It was great fun to edit. It was a long time editing. Went much longer than I thought, but it's just like, it's one of the most memorable experiences editing something, because I was just having so much fun putting it together, and I loved editing in the clips. And I loved cutting it together, and I love that these people were so nice to, you know, to do this get-together and everything, and I just really love it. I have very fond memories of not only, you know, watching it after it's done, but also putting it together and talking with these people and how nice and open they were. It was great fun. Number 9. The Haunting. I loved ripping into this film because I adore the original, as you could probably guess. A lot of people didn't know the original, and a lot of times when they ask, you know, what's one of your favorite movies or scary movies or something, I say The Haunting, and they would automatically think, you know, the Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones version. It's just, they're missing this great film. And like I said, even if you don't find it scary, it's psychologically fascinating. I mean, it's just a great study of this character, and you know, and just haunted houses in general and everything. It's shot gorgeously. It's just this brilliant movie, and then for this remake to come out, this is one of the few movies I actually walked out on. I was actually dragged to the theater to go see this one. I just wanted to walk out about 5 times, and you know, Rob was just like, "No, stay. Come on, let's see how bad it gets. Let's see how bad it gets." And finally, at the point where Owen Wilson gets his head chopped off, which was, you think it'd make me stay longer because, you know, it just, you know, encouraged the idea that more of the characters would die. That was too much for me. I'm like, okay, this is way too stupid. And it felt so good doing a side-by-side comparison, you know, just, even though I don't think, like, people defended this movie necessarily, you know, not like, hey, you leave The Haunting alone. I mean, most people knew it wasn't very good. It just felt so good to do side-by-side why it's so terrible. And it's, you know, like I said, I always sort of say every movie is like a little miracle that it can get made, you know, I mean, because films are so difficult to make, and so much goes into it, and that's one of those where I'm just like, what, I cannot understand the thought process behind it. The only thing I can figure is just that the makers or the director or whatever thought CG was really scary. You know, maybe he saw Jurassic Park and was just like, oh my god, I want to do something like this. CG is really scary. And it's just so horrible. And it just goes against everything that the original was trying to do, and the story is terrible, and really glad that I got to do sort of this side-by-side comparison, because hopefully it turned on more people to the original movie. So much effort was going into, like, every line, every decision, every choice the character makes, and what happens in the story. Gothic and suspenseful, and it's creepy, and just... and then there's that, and just, ooh. Oh, it scares me, but not for the right reasons. Number 8. North. And this was fun for the exact reason you probably think it is, that I saw the Siskel and Ebert review when I was growing up, but I never saw North. And I was just always fascinated, what is in this movie? Because like I said, I saw the trailer, a lot of us saw the trailer, it just looked like everyday kids film. I mean, nothing really that massive. I think it came out at the same time as like The Lion King, so really nobody paid attention to it. But after watching that review, I mean, it was just, what the hell is in this? So it was really fun to see what made this film so god-awful that can make Siskel and Ebert say these things and have both of them declare it the worst film of the year, you know, or one of the worst films they've ever seen in their lives. And it is just a fascinating, you know, it's kind of like The Room. You just ask yourself, what would persuade the writers or the directors to make these choices? I mean, these are just not only bad choices and bad jokes, but they're so hate-filled and mean and filled with stereotypes. Half of them don't even make sense. And even half the celebrities don't make sense. Who would put Kathy Bates as an Eskimo? It doesn't add up. And, oh, man. And it's a shame because there's a lot of good people in this movie, too. You'd think, well, this should turn out well. I'm not a huge fan of Rob Reiner, but I would imagine he can get something okay out of, you know, these people and this plot and everything. It's just like, what the hell happened? It was just so nasty. Just a nasty, stupid movie with so many good people behind it. So,